Vision is the key to provision. This is Leaders Arise with Demola Awoyele. I want to appreciate you for always joining me on this platform of Leaders Arise, where we learn about life and leadership. And I hope that today's episode of this life-changing, inspiring broadcast will richly bless you. Today, I'm continuing on our discussion on visionary living. By the way, this is about the second week that this discussion actually began, maybe the third week. You may want to go back to the previous episode so that you can get on the same page with us. Last episode, I emphasized this all-important principle or truth that vision is the key to provision. And that is what I still want to emphasize on today's episode of Leaders Arise. I made mention of one powerful statement that in life you don't follow the money, you follow the vision. Because those who follow the money seems to run away from them, but those who follow the vision, money seems to run towards them. I know you don't want to live your life running towards money while money is running away from you. You want to live your life in such a way that you are running towards God, running towards His vision for your life, then money begins to run after you. And I feel like praying for somebody today that money will serve you. You will not serve money. I was taught over the years that money is a good servant but a bad master. Money is a good servant but a bad master. That means when you are in charge of vision or when you are a visionary and money begins to serve you, it will serve you faithfully. You will tell money, do this, do that. Money will say, yes, I'm listening. But when you are a man given to frivolity, when you are a man who is not pursuing God's vision for your life, God forbid, you will be the one running after money. Money then will be your master. God forbid, you will be a servant. Can I tell you? Money is a very bad master. Money can make people to stay late in the night without sleeping. Money can make people to do dubious things. Money can make people to kill. Because it's a bad master. It will tell you what you don't want to do. It will force you to do what you don't want to do. People are doing so many dishonorable things today because they have submitted their life to money rather than submitting their life to God and His vision for their life so that money can serve them. And that's why I'm bringing today's discussion your way. That when you follow the vision, money will follow you. But when you follow money, you will be the one running after money. You will be the one serving money. And money is a bad master. But today I pray again that money will serve you. So let's get started today. So how do we get provision from vision? Because I told you I want to further on what I explained or discussed last episode. And I emphasize the fact that it is not always automatic. The way to get provision in vision is to invest in the vision. So let me say this very quickly that God is not committed to funding what He has not ordained for your life. Did you understand? So when God gives you a vision, it's not giving you that vision to fund by yourself. God actually gave you a vision to carry out for Him. For Him. And if that vision is for Him, you can rest assured that the wherewithal for that vision will also be from Him. And that should tell somebody today, then don't be too personal about God's vision for your life. Don't have sleepless nights over God's vision for your life. Understand that if it is His will, it will be His bill. You must have heard that before. If it is God's will, it will be God's bill. Because some people are following God's vision for their life and they are too personal about it. They are too possessive. They are too, I don't know how to put it. That's fine. You need to be very passionate, like I told you 2 episodes ago. But you also need to rest. Did you see that now? You need to rest. knowing fully well that this thing is not about me, it's about God. And I'll give you a quick story. The book of Nehemiah, the Bible spoke to us about Nehemiah. That Nehemiah got a news that the wall of Jerusalem was broken down, that they needed to rise up as fast as possible to go and build that wall. That wasn't Nehemiah's vision. It was God's vision communicated to Nehemiah. Did you see that now? Nehemiah was minding his own business at his place of work. He just got a news that so thing has happened to Jerusalem, and he got burdened. That's how you know God's vision. The thing just is a burden. That's not what you normally want to do, but the burden just comes upon your heart. You know, in fact, for Nehemiah, after that time, he couldn't get himself properly at the place of work. His boss noticed that his countenance had fallen. And his boss said, you are not always like this. And that shows that Nehemiah was a good employee. He was very cheerful, very dedicated, very productive. But the moment God's vision took hold of Nehemiah, the thing gripped him. His countenance fell. That his boss had to say, what is the matter? You are not always like this. And Nehemiah had to communicate that vision to his boss, that this is what is happening. Do you know that from the beginning of that project to the end, there was a supernatural supply that came? Almost like that, or almost immediately, the boss gave permission for Nehemiah to go on those number of days, to take time off work, secular work I mean to say now, to go and attend to God's vision. That's what happens to a man of vision. You enjoy favor. That's when you know that this thing is not about me, it's about God. So the boss gave Nehemiah leave, maybe leave with pay, I suppose. But that was favor. He was on leave to go do the work, the vision. He was being paid, I suppose. But not only that, the king wrote a letter and gave to the people at the border, at the different region, that whenever they see Nehemiah, they should give him the support he needed. The king gave him access to the forest to go and cut timber to go and build that wall. All on the expense of the king. Why? Because God was in charge of that vision. So one way to tap provision out of vision is to relinquish ownership of that vision to God. Is to not be overly possessive or disturbed about the vision, as to think that you will go about funding it by your own self. And one thing about God is when he sees that you are going about it your own way, he sometimes will back down or back out. And that's why Proverbs chapter 3 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3 or Proverbs 4, I can't remember. He said, but in all your ways acknowledging him, he will direct your path. So a man of vision must learn to trust the God of the vision. Did you see that now? A man of vision must learn to trust the God of the vision. A man of vision must not be sleepless because he feels that, I even see some people eating their head on the wall, having sleepless night. In fact, some people are even going the dubious way to fund God's vision. Can you imagine a pastor going to a herbalist to get more, to do money ritual, to do church? What kind of stupidity is that one? You know they are doing that. All right. How can a pastor go to a herbalist for money ritual, to get money to do church? He looks crazy. Do you know why? It's because that pastor had thought that that vision is his own. So he had to look for a means to get provision for that vision. But if somebody has told that pastor that this vision is not your vision, it is God's vision, committed to your trust. So you will relinquish ownership of that vision to God. You will not have unnecessary sleepless night just to bet that vision. Rather, you will let your trust be on God, knowing fully well that he is the owner of the cattle on 1,000 hills. He has ways that he has earmarked so that his will for your life can come to pass. So if it is God's will, it is God's will. So you must learn to trust him. Number one, learn to trust him. Give up ownership. I need to say that 1,000,000 times. You know, it's easier for a pastor to understand this teaching than for a businessman or somebody who is not doing church work or a career person to understand these things. Because a pastor understands that your church and the ministry is God's vision, so we will fund it. I think that in the same token, a businessman, a career person, somebody in governance, somebody vying for the position of whatever in the states. You know, in Nigeria now, in some countries, to really vie for any position is very expensive. So, and that's what forces people to go and meet the godfathers. So some people bankroll the election, so they expect that when you get there, fund them back. And that's why that's where corruption actually starts from. So the guy came into politics as a very innocent person, but because he came based on the provision of Godfathers and people that were in that circle, he had to pay them back. So the guy doesn't want to steal public funds, but he ended up stealing public funds because he had to pay back those that gave him the money. But listen to me, as a child of God, if God ever gives you vision for politics, that vision, he will fund it. Don't ask me how. He knows how to do that. Alright, if Godfathers and all those folks can rise up for unbeliever politicians to raise money for them, don't you think that God can put your interest and the interest of your vision in the heart of godly people that they can rise up, fund your vision with no string attached? That they will allow you to do the will of God on that platform because they know that it's a privilege for them to be used by God to fund that vision. But if that must happen, you must relinquish ownership of that vision. You must trust in God. You must let God know that, God, you gave me this vision and I know that you are more than able to fund this vision. Like I said, it is easier for a pastor to think like that. But God wants you also to think like that, even though yours is not pastor, yours is not church, yours is ministry, your business, career policy, or whatever you. The same God rules over all. It's only that pastors learn to trust God more than other people. If a businessman can trust God the same way a pastor trusts God, you will have ease in business. You will have ease in your career. You will have ease in your political vision and what have you. And that's the second thing to do. Number one, I said relinquish ownership. Know that it's God's vision committed to your trust. Number two, trust Him. Yeah, trust Him that He is more than able. Ephesians 3 verse 20 says, unto Him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ever ask or imagine. Then number three, because of time, is to go to His presence. Because this provision, you may not pick it on the street, but you will pick it in God's presence. And a very good example is Genesis 22. This is where that statement Jehovah Jireh actually came from. And we have been taught over the years that Jehovah Jireh means God shall provide. Yes, it means God shall provide, but originally it is not God shall provide. Jehovah Jireh simply means on the mountain of the Lord, it shall be seen the provision of the Lord. That is the elaborate sense to that Jehovah Jireh. On the mountain of the Lord, it shall be seen the provision of the Lord. And that was what Abraham had in Genesis 22. God told him, gave him a vision, go and sacrifice your son Isaac. And the Bible says, while he got to the mountain, he saw the provision. He saw a ram that has been caught in his ticket. And God said, don't stress yourself to fulfill that vision. Don't kill your son. Don't do this. I have made provision for this vision. Lift up your eyes. And the Bible says, Abraham lift up his eyes, and he saw the ram that has been caught up. The ram was there before Abraham got there. And that's the way it is for God's vision for your life. The provision will always be there before you get there. But until you take steps, you won't see the provision. Did you see that now? If Abraham had remained at home and said, Father, let me see the ram first before I go. No. If Abraham went in faith, but the ram, the provision was waiting. And that's the same way it is in desert. The provision for your life is waiting in your future. But until you take the step, you will never get the provision. So the Bible said, Abraham lifted up his eyes and he saw. Where did he see it? He saw it in God's presence. And that's what they meant by on the mountain of the Lord, it shall be seen the provision of God. So I want to talk to every man of vision out there. Go to the mountain of God. It's a mountain of prayers. It's a mountain of meditation. It's a mountain of the study of God's word. It's a mountain of interaction with anointed people. That when you get on these mountains, they have the power or the capacity to open your eyes to see the provision that God has made available for you. Like Agar was told in Genesis also, why are you crying? Because the water in the bottle has been spent. He said, don't cry again. And God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water and she fetched it. And can you imagine God gave her a well of water in place of water in a bottle that had been spent? Can I tell somebody today, your savings is not enough to fulfill God's vision. No matter how big, because they were embarking on a journey, they had saving in bottle of water. They had water. Now, we know we'll get thirsty, so let's fetch water along. But because the journey was longer maybe than the envisaged, the water was spent. No matter your saving, it will be spent. But remember that we don't depend on our saving, we depend on God's well of provision. Because God told Hagar, because of Ishmael, the child of Abraham, he said, lift up your eyes, and she lifted, she saw the well of water. God gave her a well in place of a bottle of water. That is what happens when you get to God's mountain, because you will have more provision than your strength could have fetched you. Did you get something on today's episode of Leaders Arise? I'm teaching about the vision being the key to provision. You may want to go over this broadcast again and again so that you'll be able to get what God would have you get. I will hope to continue on this series at the next episode. In case you have questions, you have comments and contributions, feel free to get in touch with me. Till I meet with you again on the next episode of Leaders Arise, go right there and access God's provision for His vision for your life. You will succeed. Bye for now.